Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today acquires, renovates, rents, and sells over 100 homes a year. He's been a guest on many podcasts and is a real estate blogger and coach. Nathan Brooks is CEO of Bridge Turnkey Investments. Nathan, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So to kick things off, tell us about your real estate goals right now.
Real estate goals for 2019 to do 150 fix and flips out of Kansas City.
Yeah.
So we are on pace. We just looked at this yesterday, and our team literally had our best week in our business ever last week. So I don't remember specifically, but I think it was like we bought 5, sold 4, signed off like 3 or 4 out of construction, started 3 or 4 jobs. So it was pretty crazy week.
That's a good week.
Yes, sir, it is. So that's the goal: 150 houses, and really also stabilizing our team too. So really having people on our team who, it's not just about doing the deals; it's having all the people around who understand it, own their job, own their space, and are really successful, where they're at.
Yeah. And when you come up with that goal of 150 homes, is that, do you try and increase every year by X amount percent? Like, how do you come up with that?
Well, we looked at it from where we had been the last couple of years, and we have, some years doubled, some years not quite doubled. So last year we did right about 100. The year before that we did in the low 70s. And so for this year, we were just looking at like, okay, well, in our business, we have 3 buckets we have to juggle, which is that acquisition bucket, the construction bucket, and then the sales bucket, turnkey. And so it was like, okay, well, as you have one bucket that maybe, okay, how are we doing on sales? Can we actually sell this number of houses? And, so we really looked at it as, I think objectively, this is the opportunity. We can sell that many houses, no problem. And so now it's like, can we buy and renovate that many, and then, just put the focus on it and execute. So that's kind of how we got to it, that we thought it was a big enough goal to push us, but also that was achievable.
Yeah. And you mentioned your team. So how has your team really changed as your business has grown to now have that goal of 150 houses?
Man, it's changed a lot. The team's all the difference. And I think that what happens is we start and we have people around us who, are the level at which we understand we need. And then over the course of time, we understand better, not only is it the tasks that those people are responsible, the type of person we want to be around, the culture in which we've created in our business. And then also ultimately, like, what do you want it to look like? And I think a lot of times people don't actually spend the time to think about truly, like, what do you want it to look like organizationally? Who is in charge of what are they doing? Who reports to who? And so the clearer we got on that, the clearer we got on, understanding the type, first culturally too, right? You cannot understate that. And so you're attracting and bringing in the people who you really want to be around and who really want to do the job that you want to do. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And lots of people, when they start building that team, they make some wrong hires right off the bat. Did you have any missteps as you were building up?
Well, how many do we have time for? Yes, 100%. And if you are working on building a team, there's 2 great books. Traction is one. Well, actually 3. Traction's one. Scaling Up is one. And E-Myth is one. And E-Myth has a bunch of different ones. There's E-Myth for real estate investors as well. But I made so many bad choices, and we've made so many bad hires, and we've done a bad job of onboarding people, and we've done a bad job of having a clearly set of tasks and job description. I mean, we've screwed up all of it, and more than once. I hate to admit, but it's true. And so what we've done is we've just said, okay, well, that didn't go very well, or we didn't hire the right person, or we didn't have a very good set of task lists. And so when we came at it from a KPI, key performance indicator standpoint, what are we wanting this person to influence? What what numbers are they responsible for? Okay, what type of person is responsible for this? And the more we got clear on it, and then the more we could say, okay, well, we know we don't want that, right? We don't want that to happen again, whether it was a person or the way we did it. And so we've gotten a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and now we're really starting to get momentum in the way that we are hiring and the way that we're attracting that talent that wants to be here.
Yeah, no, those are some really good points. And as you grew your business from aiming to do 70 homes to 150, did you have to make any changes in the way you thought about real estate or how you thought about your business to do that?
Absolutely. And, I tell my team this all the time, and I say, I want to be worthy of the seat that I sit in, right? Because I'm the quote unquote CEO of my business, and I'm responsible to set that culture. I'm responsible to set those goals and for us to execute those as a team. And so, I had to work on, doing less of the actual activity and more of understanding how to help lead doing the activity, and what are we working on together. How can I help my people on our team and work through, whether it's getting better at sales or getting better at how to look at a house, or you know maybe it's even identifying things that are not even this year's problems but next year's problems. Like, how are we going to help grow the sales side? How are we going to help our acquisition side? What other contractors do we need to make it happen? And so I think being able to pull yourself out of the weeds, being able to have people that you trust and understand what their responsibilities are, then you can continue to kind of pull yourself out of that day-to-day stuff, that the minutia that's very important. Don't get me wrong, very important, but also very important that somebody else has named it, been trained on it, and then runs it.
Yeah, and that's you mentioned Michael Gerber's E-Myth book. That's exactly what he talks about: taking yourself out of the day-to-day operations and then looking at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so as your business continues to grow, you're going to be experiencing some different phases of the market cycle. What sort of changes have you made as real estate changes year over year?
We get more selective on the niche, kind of the lane that we buy in. And it's made a huge difference for us, where we're buying, lots of different things, whether it's retail flip and then what price point and whatever. So we've gotten clear on what numbers we'll buy, and then what criteria we'll buy. And so now we really stay in that turnkey bucket. We're a turnkey company. We have a very clear product. We have a very clear client who wants to buy that product. And so the more clear we got on it, the faster to yes and the faster to no, right? So then
Yeah.
hey, this is not a deal. I can go and go right, move right on to the next one.
Yeah, and before you focused on that turnkey, what other kind of niches did you try?
So, I own rentals, and we still own rentals as, as a future thing. We also have done, small multifamily stuff, and we've also done, bigger scale, I'd say middle, not like super high end, but other fix and flips, $100,000 rehabs, stuff like that. And I like doing them, but from a scale standpoint, it's much, much, much more complicated. And we've spent the time now on building that system in the turnkey business and being able to say, okay, we know when a house comes out of this bridge turnkey factory, what it looks like and what it's supposed to look like. And our team knows what it is. And so it's made all the difference to be able to just put that focus energy, and you're all kind of rowing in that same direction. And it's just been a game changer.
Yeah, and as you're running your business, it's growing. Do you have any rituals or routines that you do, maybe daily or weekly, that help keep you focused?
For sure. I have a number of things that I do. I start each morning, almost every morning, with some yoga. And I also have a journal, and I have a couple books that I use to just kind of get myself in that state. So it's made a big difference. Just kind of look what my day is, think about how I'm going to impact my day, my team, my business. And so, I really like starting the day with that. And then I work out almost every day, and it makes a huge difference. I love to train MMA, and so literally was at the gym today, noon to 1:30, and working out, training, and doing that makes a huge difference, mental capacity and sanity too.
Yeah, I'm sure it helps you in a tough negotiation. You can kind of flex your muscle a bit.
Well, it doesn't hurt when you're already 6'3" anyway. So
Yeah.
that brings, just the height level helps certainly. But, I try to use the never split the difference, Chris Voss skills into that more than any muscle moving. But I guess you do it. You put it together, put the whole package.
Yeah, no, and that's a good recommendation for never split the difference. So, out of all the deals that you've done so far, is there one that stands out as a keystone deal?
Absolutely. There's a building that we bought, a triplex, that wasn't a triplex, and so we bought it, closed on it, had it rehabbing. It was beautiful. First floor, second floor, third floor, first unit, second unit, third unit, first kitchen, second kitchen, third kitchen. We'll come to find out, the nosy neighbor decided to call the city on whatever we had going on, and so they came in and they're like, you guys are good. You haven't done anything wrong. Everything that's you have going on here is good. And by the way, this is not a triplex. And as a matter of fact, it's actually not a duplex. And so it's since, the turn of the century or whatever, it's been a single unit. We can't find any history back in any of this. And so you can either come to the city and beg to have it made into a duplex, or you can turn it into a single family and let it go, or we'll shut you down.
Thanks. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out comes kitchen number two, comes kitchen number three, and we put this thing back together to be a single family home. And so through that whole thing, we discover like, okay, fine, we got a good deal on the house. It was in a great area, good deal on the house. And so we put it up for rent, and within a week, somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I'd like to rent this. I'd like to rent it for 3 years. All I ask is that you let me Airbnb this house." And so we had the ching moment, little light bulb moment. And so we actually furnished the house. We put it into Airbnb service, and ended up being a very profitable deal as we ran it. And then we just recently sold it and did very well on it. And so another person is now already taken it up a notch and has higher volume of folks in it, and doing really well too. So that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So, when you were sourcing that deal, did the seller make any representations as to if it was a duplex or a triplex?
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. It definitely went through as a triplex. And that's what we kept coming back to. We're like, well, hey guys, we bought this as a triplex. It went through, the contract as a triplex, but, ultimately when the city went back through and they were like, hey, there's no history of this. You can't use it at this. And of course, like literally the building next door, triplex, building on the other side of the street, triplex. So there's all these, 3-unit buildings, these old, turn of the centuries, 3-story units. But you know what? We had no choice.
Yeah, it is what it is. Maybe somebody's watching right now. What sort of options did you have at that point? Could you go after the seller and say, "Hey, listen, you represented this was a triplex"?
We didn't choose to take that route. It was ours at that point. We had 90% of the rehab done. And so it was like, do I want to spend the time and energy on fighting that battle and all of the, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of legal fees, or for that $10,000, we could fix it and be done with it. So it just wasn't worth the effort. And so we wanted to make sure we just handle it, solve it, and get moving forward with it actually, cash flowing and creating, revenue, which is what we wanted to do in the first place. And by the way, as a Airbnb, it basically made the same or even better than what it would have as a triplex anyway. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and when you do the Airbnb, do you have a third party company that manages that for you, or do you do everything in house?
We ran the kind of turns and so we had somebody that come in and clean it and turn it, whatever. And then we used one of the online services that did, the vast majority of the booking and all that kind of stuff. So that made it really, really useful and pretty, I wouldn't say it's fully automated, but, pretty automated.
Yeah, because I know lots of people that I speak with. One of the things that they're concerned with the Airbnb is just the constant maintenance and the turning of the units. So,
Yep.
what sort of tips or what sort of strategies did you guys use to make that a lot easier for you?
Well, we had somebody who would be on maintenance. So we knew here's the, main call during the day, and then here's the backup emergency, maintenance. So that makes a difference. And just have somebody you already know, you already have something worked out. And then, on the turns, talk to your local, like smaller cleaning companies, because, a lot of times they'll be definitely willing. And so let's say it's $200 to turn and clean that unit. We'll just make sure you have $200 or $250 as your fee for that unit for the, guest. And I think, one other thing I'll mention too, is I think a lot of times people think about these just the same way as they do of like a tenant in a rental home. That is not how to think about it. And so we really have to think about it with it's truly a guest, and how does the guest have the experience? And then how are you setting up that guest to know what their experience will be? So it might not be the nicest house, but it might be in a cool spot. Just say, not the nicest house. It's, we're a couple bachelors living here, or, if it's a high-end home, but it's not close to anything, make sure you're coming here to stay. You're coming here to experience this beautiful home and this pool. It is 15 minutes from anything, or this is where the grocery store, this is where and then that way you really kind of set that precedent for that person, and that whoever's coming, and that they truly have that experience that they're expecting. And that will be what creates that, the volume of getting reviews and the volume of getting, that business over time.
Yeah, because like you said, you really are in that service business, that hospitality type of environment, rather than just the landlord and tenant relationship. Um,
Yes. And it's a totally different beast.
yeah. And with that triplex deal, you mentioned you bought right. So it kind of saved you once all that trouble happened with the city. What sort of parameters do you use when you're sourcing deals to make sure you're actually buying at a decent price that will provide a sort of cushion?
There's three numbers we look at in our business. So we look at our all-in to or our LTV, right? So we look at what we're all in to ARV. So LTV stands for loan to value. And then second, we look at our return on capital. So we want to understand what our actual returns are, so we don't get just stuck in those emotional decisions where we're like, I like this house. Well, guess what? What does it actually say? And then third, we look at our construction cost to our returns. So, and then what we found was we would get into some of these deals where, we expect to make, say, so a big number like $70,000 or $80,000 on a rehab, but we had, say $70,000 or $80,000 in our construction budget, but we all of a sudden went over 20 grand, So, and there were certain circumstances where we're even worse, where you expect to make 30 and now all of a sudden you're making 5, which,
Yeah.
it's not fun to do it for free. We work so hard, it's not fun to do it for free or pay. I've paid at closing too. That's not fun either. So we look at that construction. So we want to make sure that there's a margin of at least 50% of whatever our construction, of our construction is our profit. So if there's a $50,000 renovation, we better have at least 25,000 in our return. So it just gives additional safety margin. And then you can kind of look at those three different numbers and then see kind of where the weakness is in that deal. And it's really been a game changer for us to be able to quickly look at something, assess what it's worth, assess what we can pay for it, and be able to, make that yes or no decision.
Yeah. And we have a lot of viewers who are, starting to build that fix and flip business. Do you have any tips for how to manage those rehabs and renos to make sure things stay within the budget?
We have worked on this a lot, like 2 years, a lot.
Yeah.
And, and there's no silver bullet. You have to, first of all, have a clear process So regardless of what your process is, you need to be able to explain what it is. You need to have a rock solid contract with that contractor, and you need to have an open dialogue about what the actual scope of work is and the timeline that it'll take, how they get paid, and what happens when it is complete, what happens if it's not complete. So I think that's the place to start. And then you start breaking down those sections, right? So then how do you manage once it's started? How often do we look at it? How do you check those scope items? And what we found personally for us, especially to do 150 houses, we have to be really clear on that scope of work. And some people have this kind of wide margin, loosey goosey things. And by the way, I am not a high detail person. I actually really don't like details at all. But I have people on my team who do, and they will dig through that stuff and make sure every single last item in that is done and completed. And so, you need somebody who is managing that project who likes the details. You want to look at their disc profile. You want to understand what type of person they are. And you want to make sure that, if we have all of these items and all of this stuff on our scope, that we go back through and we double check them. And then those draws are paid to that. And that when you close out that project, you actually are getting what you expected. You're getting what you paid for. And you understood kind of that on time, quality, and budget. Those are three things that we look at.
Yeah. And what do you suggest somebody put in their contract, a guaranteed job finish date and a guaranteed on budget sort of clause?
So we do the timeline based on, so let's say the contractor's like, listen, I think this is a 5-week job. Like, great. We're going to do the contract for 6 weeks or 6.5 weeks or something like that. Plenty of time. There's no like gotcha. This is not an intention for gotcha. And by the way, if you're a contractor too, or if you are a newer investor, don't assume that just because they might just be trying to impress you. Say, no, seriously, like, hey, if it rains a couple of days, are we off? If anything comes up that's out of the ordinary, what's going to happen? And so I'd rather have the conservative. This is what this is like. We can actually hit this date, and then, what we've done is we just have a clause in there that says, hey, if we go past this date, it costs this much money per day for you to be still on that job and not completed. And, we definitely work with those contractors, and especially if you don't usually miss those dates. And if there's something that comes up that's legitimately an issue, and it's also like if a change order comes up too, right? You have to define that change order. How much time is it going to take to run it? How much does it cost for that change order? And so there's so many factors, but it comes down to having that communication with the contractor, having somebody that you trust and that has a clear plan of what it looks like to succeed. And, we don't want to get paid. We don't want the teeth in that contract to have to be pursued. We want you to have a plan in place that actually makes you succeed from the beginning. So, that's where we've put that focus.
Yeah, those are some really good tips because, the devil is in the details with everything to do with real estate.
100%.
Yeah. So out of all the, you've done a whole bunch of deals now, you're building your business. How has getting into real estate changed your life?
It's changed it in a lot of different ways. It definitely fundamentally changes the way I look at houses, and it changes the way my kids look at houses too, right? So we're always talking about how we could buy a house, or we could paint a house, or we could change a house or whatever. So, the physicalness of that. As far as income wise, I make more money than I ever, dreamed that I would be able to make. And I also gives me an opportunity to give away more money than I ever thought I could do that. And so we have goals, not just around the money that we can make, but the money that we can give away. And we talk about it as a family. And then, I think the other piece of it is just kind of connecting with other like-minded people. And it's such a cool time in the real estate business and in the world where we get together with people, even, who are competitors of mine. And I get to sit and talk with them and learn about real estate more and kind of have that culture and willingness to help one another. And so, it's been fun just getting to know other people who have that like-mindedness, that desire of excellence, and that just desire to get after it. And so, it's just brought even more cool, interesting people into my life.
Yeah. And you mentioned your kids. you're giving them basically $1 million education in real estate as they grow up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I expect we set out a plan that each of the kids, when they turn 10, we want to buy 2 houses a year for each of those kids. And they won't necessarily know and understand exactly what that means when they're 10, but they will start to learn and see that, hey, this, oh my gosh, when you're 16 or 18 and you start talking about, like, did you realize that this is your portfolio? And now, of course, you need to be able to be, you know, uh, able to handle it, able to understand what it is, not just go blow all the money that we've just, put this together. But, the goal of literally having your own business and getting a financial education and a real estate education and be able to really roll into your, late teens and early 20s with legitimately $1 million portfolio and some passive income. And what I hope most, far beyond any of that stuff, is, like you said, you have that education and that appreciation for what it is, and appreciation for the fact that not everybody gets to do this, and we're blessed and we have an opportunity to do it. And you can really have a lot of success and business acumen and pleasure in your life because you put this together now.
Yeah, and they are so fortunate that you are where you are at right now in real estate for you to pass on that knowledge.
Yes. And I just want them to understand that and learn that, and to have that same appreciation, because it is a gift, and it is such a cool opportunity for them to learn. And then also just to have that, lessen that stress. And anybody out there, you don't have to buy 2 houses a year. You could buy 5 total or 4 total, and you can pay for your kids' college. You can make sure they, pay for their first down payment on their home, or whatever it is that gets you excited. There's so many cool ways you can use that tool and that leverage of real estate to really make a game changer in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And looking 5 to 10 years down the road into the future, where do you see your business going?
I think that we are in multiple states. I think we're doing 3, 4, 500 houses a year. I think we have a larger team than what we have now, but we just continue to dial in who our team is. I think we've branched out, so we have other types of investments, whether it be some senior living or large apartment communities. And I really see us being one of the top of the top turnkey companies in the United States, just absolutely hammering out amazing houses all over the US and helping clients all over the world invest in real estate.
Yeah, no, that's a great goal. And what changes do you have to make from today to get there?
We have to continue to build our leaders in our organization. We have to continue to have better and clearer processes. We have to have better and clear ways to buy, renovate, and sell houses. We have to build our infrastructure and the things that help mold us into a business. And then, letting those systems scale and seeing where things break. And, when you look at a business that runs 50 houses to a business that runs 100 houses, or 10, right? So you do 10 in a year is different than 20 or 30 in a year, and different than 50, and different than 70, and different than 100, different than 150. And, we run into these ceilings, and we all do it. Right. And if you're listening, we all have it, including me. Just recently we had staff changes, and we've had issues with, solving contractor problems and stuff. Everybody has them. So, you have to take those things head on. You have to embrace them, and you have to dig in and get into the weeds a little bit and solve those problems, and then get right back out of those weeds, and then put that 10,000 foot focus, 30,000 foot focus back on, and go get back after it.
Yeah, no, those are some definitely good messages. So if somebody's looking to get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yep. So, you can check out bridgeturnkey.com. So that's our turnkey company website. I was also just the first 4-time guest on Bigger Pockets. So you can check that out. I think it's episode 319. And then I'm most active on social on Facebook. So you can just look up Nathan Brooks, Kansas City, and track me down there.
That's great. Well, Nathan, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today to share your success with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.